as of recording this, From Software's latest masochistic dark fantasy game, Elden Ring, is just a few days from release. Seeing as this is one of the few things I truly, deeply care about, I've taken every measure possible to avoid spoilers about the game online. I've shut myself off from nearly every piece of promotional material about the game, including interviews. But one did manage to slide across my desk, an interview with Hidetaka Miyazaki about poison swamps. When discussing Elden Ring with Game Informer, Miyazaki explained, "When making Elden Ring, I rediscovered my love for making poison swamps. I know how people feel about them, but suddenly I realize I'm in the middle of making one, and I just can't help myself. It just happens." It just happens, and keeps happening, again and again. The Souls games are all plagued by poison swamps in one form or another, each a product of this man's deep, twisted psyche. But in considering the swamps of the past, a question came to mind. Which swamp is objectively superior? Of the 6 poison swamps Miyazaki has had a hand in making, which is definitively the best? The question itself is tricky. Poison swamps are pretty much guaranteed to be an awful time in these games. You spend ages trudging through knee-deep toxic sludge, which not only slows your movement, but also slowly poisons you to death, all while grimy freaks crawl out of the bog to kick your ass. Every swamp is unpleasant in its own way, so deciding which reigns supreme is not a matter of which area is the best to play, but rather which swamp is the most effective. This being the case, I decided to develop a metric to rate each of these areas: the Sekiro Soulsborne Swamp Score. SSS is a 4-category rating system that measures each level's toxicity, swampiness, length of swamp experience, and creativity, each of which adds together to form a final objective score. These categories have also been weighted on their level of importance, with toxicity being the most crucial and creativity being at the rear to offer up a few extra bonus points. Before we can award any points, however, we first need to familiarize ourselves with the swamp du jour. First to bat is Demon Souls with its Swamp of Sorrows, a sub-area of the larger Valley of Defilement. This literal cesspool is buried deep underground and home to mosquitoes, slugs, and plenty of depraved ones. As a swamp that started it all, its DNA can be found in several other areas in later games, like Dark Souls' Blighttown. Best known for its horrific scaffolding and toxic dart blowers, Blighttown is also something of an underground swamp, or so it may seem. This poison swamp is so deep down that it feels buried, but upon looking up, you can see it's actually a proper open-air swamp. Following up is Earthen Peak, which is less a swamp and more of a poison factory. The mines surrounding this tower are filled with poison gas, but don't let that fool you, the tower itself is home to a few artificial poison pools. Dark Souls 3's Farron Keep shows a return to form with a massive open-air swamp dominated by basilisks, slugs, and giant crabs. Moving from traditional Souls games is Bloodborne's Nightmare Frontier, a psychic swamp born from the dreams of old gods. While the beasts in this area are a pain, the real nightmares are the winter lanterns that patrol the backside and caves of this pseudo-swamp. Last but not least is Sekiro's Poison Pool, an area hidden away in the Ashina depths. It may be small in size, but it's no cakewalk, as its only exit is blocked by Snake Eyes Shitahagi, a mini-boss with a mini-cannon and impeccable aim. Though unique in shape and size, each area is still a poison swamp at heart. But which among them is the most poisonous? Category 1 of the SSS is toxicity, a ranking of how poisonous each poison swamp is. I decided to base this rating on 2 factors that exist in each of these games: how long it takes to become poisoned, and how quickly the poison can kill you. Typically when entering a poison pool, a bar appears on screen to illustrate the poison buildup. When the bar fills, your character gains the poisoned status effect and begins losing health for a period of time. The length of the bar is dependent on your character's stats, or more specifically, their poison resistance, but the rate of buildup is static and depends on the swamp itself. So for each game, I did 5 trials measuring the length of time required to fill the bar. I'd average the results of each trial, then divide my character's resistance by the average time to get the rate of buildup. Once I had that value, I just had to see how long it took for the poison to kill each of my characters. I divided their total health by the time it took to kill them, and ended up with a rough estimate of each swamp's damage per second. With both values in hand, I could calculate a score for each swamp, granting them a maximum of 5 points. At the top of the ranks, with 4 points, was Dark Souls 2 with its impressively high 50 damage per second. Following up was Bloodborne with 3 points, Dark Souls with 2, and Demons, DS3, and Sekiro all getting 1 point. Speaking of Sekiro, I feel inclined to mention that the game is a bit of an outlier in this category, as Sekiro lacks a proper poison resistance stat. You can't increase your resistance throughout the game, so I gave the game an estimated resistance of 100. With the hard math out of the way, that brings us to Category 2, the swampiness of each given area. National Geographic defines a swamp as an area of land permanently saturated or filled with water. Swamps are dominated by trees. Swamps are transition areas. They are neither totally land nor totally water. In order to qualify as a swamp, these areas needed 2 things: water and trees. Extra vegetation is nice, but without trees, all we have is a marsh. This is not a ranking of Miyazaki's greatest poison marshes, so you need the trees to get max points. This time around, the category is worth a total of 4 points, 2 for the presence of naturally occurring water, and 2 for the presence of trees. Dark Souls 1 and 3 managed to lead the pack in this category with a max of 4 points each. Then Demon Souls, Bloodborne, and Sekiro tie for second with 2 points each. They all have water, but lack the presence of any naturally occurring trees. In last place is Dark Souls 2, because, well, Earthen Peak is not a swamp. Any water in the area is not naturally occurring, and there clearly hasn't been any plant life growing in the tower for years. Sucks to suck, I guess. Naturally occurring or not, the size of a poison pool can do a lot to elevate a swampy area. After all, you can hardly call a swimming pool filled with poison a swamp. Bigger is better in this category, so using maps and aerial screenshots, I measured the size of the swamps compared to the dry land in the rest of the area and formed a score from that. Similar to our last category, the length of swamp experience can earn an area a total of 4 points. Leading the pack with their sheer swampy size, Demon Souls and Dark Souls 3 managed to earn 3 points each, while Dark Souls, Bloodborne, and Sekiro get a measly 1 point. Sadly, due to the pitiful size of Earthen Peak's poison pools, Dark Souls 2 doesn't even earn a single point in this category. Not all hope is lost, however. This final category exists to help elevate the boldest areas and gift extra points to the risk takers. Those who score the highest here have worked hard to push the limits of what can be defined as a poison swamp, showing new and inventive ways to bring players and toxic sludge together. Demon Souls, as the progenitor, does not gain any points in this category, unfortunately. Dark Souls managed to improve upon the Swamp of Sorrows with Blighttown's mechanical creativity. While the scaffolding can be frustrating to maneuver, there's a lot more diversity in its design, which earns the area 1 point. Similarly, Sekiro gains 1 point for its creative enemy theming. After seeing plenty of slugs and skeetos in the swamps of yore, the snipers of the poison pool are a nice change of pace. Next up is Dark Souls 3 with 2 points. Keep's roster of enemies are unlike any of the other swamp residents from previous games. I mean, hell, there's never been swamp crabs before. On top of clever enemies, Keep also has you exploring the swamp in search of special ritual fires you have to extinguish. To progress, you have no choice but to search every inch of swampland, forcing you to get down and dirty like no other game has before. Tied for the most creative are Dark Souls 2 and Bloodborne. Both have a good deal of conceptual creativity, with Earthen Peak's Poison Tower and the Nightmare Frontier's Psychic Swamp. Their enemies are similarly unique, Earthen Peak being filled with knife-throwing assassins, pyromancers, and giant hammer-wielding baby men. The Nightmares got plenty of beasts that are not only unique when compared to the rest of the games, but also unique when compared to Bloodborne as a whole. Rock-throwing yetis, nightmare squids, and, of course, the Winter Lanterns are all unique to Bloodborne's nightmares, which certainly earns a point. Lastly, they both have a degree of mechanical creativity. In Earthen Peak, you can burn the windmill on the side of the tower to drain the poison pools inside, as well as the large pool inside the boss room. And in the Nightmare Frontier, there's the bell-ringing woman who summons other players to the nightmare for PvP battles, and this is also the spot where Patches the Spider kicks you into a pit, which is worth something in my book. Both Earthen Peak and the Nightmare earn their games 3 points for creativity. With all the points tallied, the time for definitive ranking is upon us. The winner here is the best of the worst, the most effective poison swamp in the history of these games. Though the rest may not share the glory of winning, they're still all frustrating in their own ways. Without further ado, here are the final results. In 6th place, with only 5 points, is Sekiro's Poison Pool. In 5th, with 6 points, Demon Souls Swamp of Sorrows. In 4th, with 7 points, Dark Souls 2's Earthen Peak. In 3rd place with 8 points is Blighttown from Dark Souls. Number 2 with 9 points, Bloodborne's Nightmare Frontier. And in 1st place, the very best a poison swamp has to offer, is Dark Souls 3's Farron Keep, with a total of 10 points. Though not as toxic as some of the other competitors, Farron Keep is the most like a natural swamp, and with its immense size and creative design, it proves to be the most effective of the bunch. These 6 swamps have challenged players over the years, and continue to frustrate Souls fans to this day. They carry with them the spirit of Dark Souls, or at least the spirit of Miyazaki's weird fixation with swamps. Love or hate them, these games wouldn't be the same without their poison swamps, which is why hearing about the many that await us in Elden Ring gives me a lot of hope. It's hard to say what Elden Ring has in store, but one thing is for certain. When I'm knee-deep in goop that's trying to kill me, I'll feel right at home.